Recording in progress.
You're on the show.
All right. Here we go. Well, hey guys, how's it going?
What's up? How are you?
Man, I'm Hayes Hora. Thank y'all so much for agreeing to be on here with me.
Oh, our pleasure. I'm Coyote. This is Mario. Nice to meet you, Hayes.
Yes, sir. Well, we've had some people in Collierville, which is a suburb outside of Memphis out here, who have submitted pictures of snakes they've come across through walking trails and things like that in our public parks. And I thought, why not enlist Coyote and Mario's help to see if they're dangerous and what we can do to look out for these little suckers?
I think that we could probably be of assistance. When you guys wrote to me and said, do you want to identify some snakes? I'm like, I'm happy to do my best to try, but I'll tell you, this guy knows his snakes. So between the two of us, I think we're going to have it covered.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I'm going to be real respectful of y'all's time. I have no idea how busy y'all are. We're big fans of the show. My whole family watches it. We love the tarantula hawk sting and the red velvet ant and the carpenter wasp. It's just massive entertainment at your expense. So
Hey, our pleasure. We have a pretty popular one that just came out this past weekend. We started to experiment with stinging plants. So the one that just came out was me getting stung by Australian giant stinging tree leaf. The next one is the gimpy, and we just today we're conceptualizing a more commonplace one called stinging nettle, which most people probably run into in the United States, but we're going to put it to the ultimate test and rank it on the new plant sting pain index. So we'll see what happens.
I saw that episode with the devil's toilet paper.
Yeah, that's the giant stinging tree. Yeah.
Just a light graze. That's all it took for you.
Yeah, it was crazy. What's funny about that is we didn't even intend to produce that episode. We were on a location filming conservation episode on Tasmanian devils in Australia, and where we were staying, they had this little pamphlet at the lodge that was warning people who went out hiking about this plant, and we were like, never heard of you. And sure enough, we found it, did a little test, and we're like, oh yeah, that's an episode.
That's something else. Well, let me see how I can share these pictures. I'll just share my screen.
Yep.
If I can do that here, here's the button. Let's see. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Let's see here. So screen share. Multiple participants. How about now? Try it now.
All right, that did it.
Cool.
Okay. Make sure it just goes. Good deal. All right, can you see my screen okay?
Sure can.
All right. Get our little box over here. Okay, so this will be real quick and easy here. I'm going to hit...
number one.
Here we go.
Ooh. That's a cool one. Do you want to guess? Do you guys have guesses or anything as to what they are, or are you just very much looking for us to identify them?
I was hoping to get your initial reaction. I have a few guesses as to what it could be, but I can't tell the difference.
So you guess first. I have a thought, and then I'll let you answer what this one is, because I think I know what it is, but you definitely do, and I have a thought. So you go first and tell us what you think it is.
I think that this is a speckled king snake.
Okay.
That's based on a Google Lens analysis that I did when I took it, so I cheated a little bit.
Okay, no, that's okay. I wasn't gonna say that. To be honest with you, I'm not sure what it is, but I was gonna say that it's definitely getting ready to shed, and that's why it has that white or that bluish coating over its eye. That's the scales starting to separate away. And I was going to say that it's some kind of king snake. But Mario, I have a feeling that we are both wrong, and you know what it is.
No, it is a king snake.
It is a king snake. Okay.
Oh, it's a king snake.
Your first instinct and that Google search correct. It could be simply called an eastern king snake or an eastern black king snake. And as Coyote mentioned, it is getting ready to shed, which is why you see the eye kind of like a cloudy blue color. Sometimes when snakes are about to shed, it can give them a different color or hue, which might make identification a little difficult. But non-venomous king snake that I would recommend whoever saw that, if that was on a property, leave it there because it's going to eat other snakes.
Yep.
It eats other snakes.
Like Mario said, non-venomous, they can be bitey, and we have learned that when snakes are in shed, think of yourself as wearing foggy goggles and you can't see something, so you approach the snake and try to pick it up, but maybe more prone to biting because it would have trouble seeing what it is that's picking it up. But like you said, non-venomous, definitely a good snake to have around.
Okay, great. We got one knocked out here. Let's see what's behind curtain number 2.
Ooh. Okay. Yep. All right. Do you have a guess?
I was gonna say water moccasin or a cottonmouth.
Okay. It is definitely a juvenile snake, and you can tell by the little yellow tip on the tail, and of course its size, rather robust. And Mario, correct answer is?
Yeah, it is a water moccasin.
Yep, same thing as a cottonmouth.
Yeah, so that's so this is venomous, right?
Mm-hmm.
So right off the bat, it is venomous. Water moccasin. Let's first talk about the name, right? They're both the same thing. A water moccasin and a cottonmouth are both refer to the same species or same type of snake. It's just dependent on where you're from, if you prefer water moccasin or you prefer using the term cottonmouth.
I mean, I think the snake has like 10 different common names.
But this is an echistrodon, right? So it is a water moccasin cottonmouth. Personally, I go back and forth between say water mock and cottonmouth.
Yeah.
It's a juvenile, and the way you can tell it's a juvenile is because of, first of all, the size. Obviously, there's no scale in this picture, but the coloration is the giveaway, right? It's got more pattern. As they get older, they'll lose that pattern and be more uniformly colored, like brownish all the way to black. And then, yeah, the very tip of the tail, you see that little yellow tip at the end of the tail. That's actually a lure mechanism. It's called a caudal lure, and they will wiggle that to attract prey items. A lot of young venomous snake species, pit vipers, this is pit viper, have that little feature. So yeah, this is definitely a snake that whoever took a picture of, hopefully did it from a good distance away. And if they see the snake again, just leave it alone. There are a lot of misconceptions about water moccasins in that they, stories of them chasing people down, being one of the most notorious snakes out there. All the interactions I've had with water moccasins have been the usual snake demeanor. If cornered, they will stand their ground, open their mouth, and display. But if given the chance to flee, they take that chance immediately. So treat them like you would any snake and just simply leave them alone.
And because it's venomous, even at this size, a lot of people think like, oh, is a baby snake more or less dangerous because it's a baby snake? Still venomous. If you were to be bitten by this snake, it would be considered a medical emergency. So definitely something you want to avoid.
I think you've said in the past that a juvenile can't control the amount of venom it releases. Is that right?
That's not necessarily. That's a bit of a misconception, I think. The thing is, would you rather get bitten by a small snake versus an adult? The adult will always give more yield of venom, so it makes the adults way more dangerous. So I would always rather get bitten by a smaller snake than an adult. So it's not necessarily they can't control their venom. It's just at that size, they might deliver all their venom, right? Versus controlling some as the adults can. But however, that's always going to still be a smaller yield of venom compared to an adult snake.
Adult snakes will sometimes give a dry bite, and you have to remember that a bigger adult snake probably is a little bit more confident in feeling like it can ward off a predator, where a baby snake may automatically just deliver a venom yield and all of its venom yield because it's feeling, I'm way smaller than whatever this is. It's newer to the world, less experienced. So yeah, regardless, venomous snake, admire from a safe distance.
All right. Well, we've got him covered. Let's move on to number 3 here.
Ooh, nice. Wow, cool shot. Whoever found that scenario, probably early in the morning, a snake warming itself up. So I know what that is. Mario, I think you know what that is, but do you have a guess?
I was going to say a python.
Okay. Given the scale and the picture when you first brought it up, the picture is very, makes that snake look really, really big, I would say. And you don't, the way that it's all kind of lengthed out like that. So it is a non-venomous species, completely harmless. And Mario, it's a
rat snake. More precisely, you could call it a red rat snake. Some people call them corn snakes. but it is in the rat snake family. Another very common rat snake group tend to be black in color or gray, but this is what you would consider a red rat snake. What gives it away quickly is the patterning, and then the front and the head area. You could just see that classic rat snake head. Non-venomous, one of my favorite non-venomous snakes that as a kid I used to try and catch, and was fascinated with them. This is a snake that, if this individual that the snake is at the house doesn't have like small pets or anything like that, like leave it alone because it's going to eat the rodents and keep them away.
Yeah, so as to say, it's primarily a rodent eater, so a really good thing to have around your house. Completely harmless. They don't tend to bite very often unless they really feel threatened. So again, this snake looks like it crawled up there. Probably the black coloration was absorbing heat from the sun, which made it an even better place for the snake to then in turn absorb that heat. So, yep, great, safe snake to have in your yard. If you see it, you want to keep it.
They will, however, if you do have like a chicken coop or something like that, they are notorious. Rat snakes are notorious for also eating eggs. So sometimes people that have little chicken coops and collect eggs have to make sure that it's snake proof, and unless if it's not, you might find a big snake like swallowing an egg in the process of swallowing an egg.
And for clarification, when I said keep it, I meant keep it in their yard, not catch it and keep it like as a pet. Although this species does usually pretty popular in the pet trade as a safe snake, but we don't want to take snakes out of the wild. Leave it in the wild as an outdoor pet for the most part.
So, like a Gila monster that has the bacteria that builds up in its saliva, would a snake that feeds off rats like this also have a dangerous bite from an infection standpoint?
Not at all. So, snakes, and particularly non-venomous snakes, especially for those who handle them in captivity, work with them in captivity, and catch them in the wild as well, non-venomous snake bites are very unlikely to get infection, mainly because they swallow their prey whole. So they're not actually chewing stuff like other animals do. When you chew, that's when you actually get stuck in the teeth and gum areas that potentially will eventually cause bacteria. So a non-venomous snake bite, unless there's a laceration that then gets left untreated and just exposed to the environment, non-venomous snake bites generally tend to be bite release, very tiny punctures because their teeth are tiny, and generally what I recommend always is simply scrub it down with soap and water. If that's handy. If not, then you put some antibacterial stuff on you. But I've never had any issues from a non-venomous snake bite.
Well, that's very educational to know about there. Let's see what number 4 looks like.
Also, a baby water moccasin in the water, floating.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
So here is whoever took this picture, and the fact that pools are very common spots, as we just saw that rat snake, right? On a hot day, animals are going to come to these pools potentially to get some fresh water and to cool off. One way to determine if the snake you're looking at is a water moccasin versus a water snake that's non-venomous is if the snake is floating on the surface or is diving down into the water. So one feature that water moccasins tend to do often when they're in the water and threaten, they will inflate up and float on the surface, just like this water moccasin is doing. Water snakes, when they freak out, they dive down quickly and just go around underwater. Moccasins tend to stand their ground a little bit, most of the time on the surface.
When these are in the water, do people normally get bitten while they're in the water? Can they bite underwater?
They could certainly bite underwater, but most of the time, water moccasins in the water, encountered by a person, the snake is on the surface like this, and trying to swim away. What happens often, though, where you get those stories of, oh, a water moccasin chased me down, or I was in my boat and a moccasin was chasing the boat. When they're in the water, they are trying to find a purchase or somewhere where they could get up out of the water. And sometimes if you're in the water and the snake is trying to come back towards land, right, it might seem like it's coming towards you if you're blocking its path. Or if you're in a boat or a kayak and the snake's coming up, it might see your kayak as a nice purchase to come and kind of chill out on. and that will definitely freak people out. But incidents of water moccasins biting people in the water are very rare versus water moccasins on land and someone stepping on them. You're more likely to accidentally step a water moccasin than to get bitten in the water by one.
And what does water moccasin venom do to the body compared to others?
Coyote,
Yeah, it's got some necrotic components to it, so it will break down your blood cells and eventually can kill your limbs. So that's why we say it's a medical emergency. Like, you want to, if you get bitten by a water moccasin, you do need to receive antivenom. So water moccasins and copperheads and a number of different rattlesnake species in the United States all sort of, they use the same profab antivenom in a lot of these situations. And you want to get that antivenom as fast as possible. We know a couple of people who've been bitten by water moccasins who've lost pieces of their fingers or their hands and stuff like that, because eventually the venom does just kill your blood cells, essentially, and the tissue.
Y'all will appreciate this. I went into the emergency room to interview the staff at Collierville's Baptist ER, and one question I asked them was, how prepared are they with antivenom for all the different types of snake bites they could get in Collierville? And they explained they're fully stocked. It doesn't matter what you get bitten by, but get a picture of the snake before you go to the hospital safely. And they said several people who try to bring the snake with them will get bitten 2 or 3 more times in the process.
Yeah, that's a very good point you have there. Never interact with a snake more than you should, because you have a chance of getting bitten again.
Mm-hmm.
But most important aspect is, here in the United States, we have some of the best venomous snake treatments. So hospitals either have the antivenom in stock or will quickly get antivenom sent to them, like helicopter will send them the antivenom. So hospitals take it very seriously and are usually very equipped.
Oh, I was real comforted hearing that, having seen all these snakes people keep sending us. Here's number 5. This came out from underneath a woman's oven in her kitchen.
Okay, I've got it. Did you have any guesses initially?
This one is beyond me.
Okay, so
I will admit that I am not sure what that is either. It looks like it mixes a couple things together from my perspective. It's a little bit blurry, but Mario, I'll let you answer that one. What is this?
So the one thing with many of the non-venomous snakes throughout the eastern U.S. and actually throughout the U.S. is when they're babies or juveniles, they do have different patterns and colors.
I will say I know that it's non-venomous.
So this is a juvenile baby rat snake as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
And likely it is a red rat snake as well. So you could see already some, by its head and neck area, you can see some reddish, kind of orangish tint. So when they're juveniles, their patterns are completely different, more ornate. And I could immediately tell based on the head structure again that it is a rat snake. So,
oh, I see. You zoomed way in. Is this like a hamburger flipper that's holding it down?
Oh, that's a good question. It looks like it is.
Okay. Now when you zoomed in quick, I was confused as to how big it was. Yeah, no, it's tiny. That's a little baby.
So
I see.
Tiny rat snake. And when they're tiny like that, they are very defensive. So often if someone sees a little tiny snake like that and you reach down to grab it or get close, it will rear up, try and strike. But that's because they're very vulnerable at that size. So they do tend to freak out a little bit. But non-venomous rat snake.
That snake is so small it wouldn't even be able to break skin if it did bite you.
Oh, well, that's comforting. We apparently have a lot of the same species from these submissions. This guy was hiding in a reef.
On somebody's wreath on their door.
Yes, front door wreath.
I mean, for people who are afraid of snakes, that's got to be a terrifying thing if you're going to reach up through the reef to get the door knocker and all of a sudden you see a head poking out. So I know what that is. I know you know what that is. Do you have a guess?
Being straight black like that, I don't see a pattern. So I don't know if I could say a rat snake. Is it a version of a king snake, possibly?
It is a rat snake.
Mm-hmm.
So
Another rat snake.
Correct. So
black rat snake.
This is a black rat snake, which also are just called eastern rat snakes at this point. Black rat snakes are sometimes deceiving because they can be anywhere from a dark black to gray, and sometimes they do have pattern that is visible in some parts of their body. But the main giveaway is obviously the black color, but their white underbelly even though they're black rat snakes, their underbellies are always a nice, vibrant white. And once again, non-venomous snake that it's great to have around as long as you don't have any chicken coops that they're raiding. Yeah.
Excellent climbers. You can tell from being up in a wreath on a door. We've seen rat snakes climb straight up the sides of trees that don't even have that much grip on them. So they have very strong bodies. They are rodent eaters and they are constrictors. So the strong nature of their body would allow a snake, tough to tell how big it is, but I'm guessing that was probably close to 3 feet in length. These snakes can be pretty sizable. I mean, they can grow to be like 7 feet in length. They'll use just the strength of their body to reach all the way up, get an edge of that wreath, and then pull itself up to probably stay hidden. Or honestly, it could be a good spot to stay and wait for a bird to come and land, in which case it'd be opportunistic to take down a bird that would maybe build a nest in a reef like this.
I tell you what, that also could be a good security system, right?
Yeah.
Some unwanted people knocking on yours. Oh boy.
No soliciting. Wait till you meet my rat snake.
Imagine the Ring doorbell footage from that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to number 7 here.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, good one. Do you have any guesses?
I've never seen this pattern before.
Well, this species can vary quite a bit in color and pattern. And when you hear what it is, you're going to be like, oh, of course, these are everywhere. So this is a non-venomous snake. Well, technically has a very mild venom. Wouldn't have any effect on a human, but...
This is what most people would call it a garter snake, right? So eastern garter snake varies in color and pattern, as Coyote mentioned. The giveaway, though, is the striping, right? So most garter snakes and equivalents, which are also called ribbon snakes, much thinner, all have, and they all belong to this family called genus called Tamnophis. They all have these stripes that go down the entire length of their body, starting at the neck and going down. Eyes are very big because they're primarily diurnal, actually. And garter snakes, despite always people are like they're very common and harmless, they are bitey. They're some of the more bitey snakes, meaning if you pick it up, they do bite. And as Coyote mentioned, they do technically have a mild venom. They have larger rear teeth that are almost like fangs. And one of their primary diets are frogs and toads. And they use that mild toxin to help dispatch the frogs and toads that they're eating.
Well, that makes
There's
sense.
also an anticoagulant in their saliva. So similar to water snakes, if you're bitten, you may bleed more. And the times I've been bitten by a garter snake, remember, everybody's going to react differently. I get a little bit of an itchy irritation on my finger, and it bleeds more than you would think, considering how small the bites are, which a lot of times can cause people to think, oh my gosh, was I bitten by a venomous snake? Honest story, I was just bitten by a garter snake this past Friday, and man, it got me good, and I didn't expect to get bitten because a lot of times, like Mara said, they can be bitey, but I find that I'm not bitten by them very often. So I just grabbed it, picked it up, and boy, did it wallop me, and I had quite a bit of a burning sensation in my finger. But again, for somebody that didn't know what it was, they may feel like, oh my gosh, I've been envenomated, but not to a level where you would ever need to go seek medical attention.
Gotcha.
Safe snake, great one to have in your yard.
Interesting fact about them is they give birth to live young, so they don't lay eggs, so they'll just have these little tiny garter snakes that come out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a new fun fact I didn't know either. My goodness. Well, this one blends right into the asphalt here.
It's a cool picture. Yeah, wow, look at how its body is tick, 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 tick.
So, right off the bat, that's another rat snake, eastern rat snake or black rat snake. And as I mentioned earlier, right, their patterns differ considerably based on individuals.
This one's called the blacktop variety.
Yeah, no, it matches perfectly with it. But you could see that this one has a little bit more pattern and even like a grayish color and tint to it versus that other black rat snake. But yeah, another non-venomous snake. Yep.
Yeah, the camouflage is amazing on that one.
I love that. Yeah.
That's a cool picture.
Man, that would, yeah.
If you had seen that, you'd be like, oh, that's a great,
Really
great photograph.
Let's stop and get a picture.
We're down to 2 more.
Okay.
Okay, this is another good one. I haven't seen this one yet.
This is a fun little one.
So it is a non-venomous snake, completely harmless. Do you have a guess as to what it is?
This one looked like a python to me.
Okay. Definitely not a python.
I would say completely opposite of python.
It's actually a very small snake.
Yeah, and granted, of course, you don't have scale in this picture.
Yeah.
But once you know what it is, they're some of the smallest snakes in the U.S.
Yeah, they will poop on you. That's for sure. And it is
it's got a very unassuming name. It's just called a brown snake.
Yeah, sometimes called the decay snake as well.
Yeah,
they're kind of like have like two names.
That snake right there is probably not even like 12 inches long, and probably as thin as a pencil actually.
Yeah.
They are primarily fossorial, so they're found like underneath the leaf litter or ground, but they'll come up after rains and they'll go, come up to like move around and look for slugs and other invertebrates that they eat. But yeah, very, very, very tiny snake. Once again, of course, no scale in the picture, so I'm not gonna, this you can't really determine the size of it. But it is non-venomous and completely harmless.
Yep, and I've never seen one try to bite before, but boy, will they poop on you. And they have a very oily musk. If you pick up a brown snake or decay snake, like I said, you're almost guaranteed to get pooped on, and boy, you're gonna need some good dish detergent to get that musk off of you.
Yeah.
That's hysterical. The snakes that poop on you instead of bite you.
Tiny but smelly.
Yeah. Well, when you smell it, you're like, I probably shouldn't have picked it up. Ooh, okay, good one. All right, last snake of the batch, and definitely a dangerous one. This one is venomous. Do you have a guess?
I had a thought this could have been a cottonmouth.
Okay. Close. Yeah. So copperhead. Right?
Copperhead.
Copperhead that we've seen in the pics. They belong to the same family as the cottonmouth or water moccasin. So they're both in this Agistrodon genus. And so they actually do have a very similar look. And sometimes when they're juveniles, they look very, very similar. But this is a good-sized snake. This is an adult, for sure, based on the color and some of the size that I believe it might be. And yeah, venomous. There's a snake that whoever took this picture of definitely want to do it from a safe distance, and then call someone to try and relocate it, or somehow, I've sometimes recommended, I never want people to try to interact with venomous snake if they don't have to. However, if it's an emergency, or if it's like this snake is going to get further into my house, one of the best techniques is to simply empty out a big garbage bin, right? Turn it over on its sides, grab yourself a nice big broom, right? And try to sweep it into the garbage bin, and then right the garbage bin up, secure the lid, and wait for animal control or someone to come out, or relocate it somewhere far away. That's the last resort that I would not want anyone to really interact with a venomous snake. But yeah, that's a snake that you want to be aware of. And
yeah, one thing to note with this picture too, if you zoom out a little bit, you've got this snake backed into a corner, and it's already giving you a defensive pose. You see the angle at which its head is cocked back like that. So its body is pinned up against this sort of right angle between the box and that piece of wood there. If this snake were to feel threatened, it's now got a lot of purchase to be able to project itself forward, and its head is in that classic strike position. So the snake was definitely feeling threatened by somebody not only approaching it with it being in a corner, but this is a situation where somebody could easily get accidentally bitten. So you would want to back off, let the snake slither on and remove itself out of the garage or wherever this was as easily as possible. Again, if you're bitten, medical emergency, just like a water moccasin would be. Not quite as potent as the water moccasin venom, but again, it's all about how your body reacts to an animal's venom when it comes to you being in a worst case scenario. So
yeah, best
to admire this one from a safe distance.
And in terms of common venomous snakes in your areas in eastern parts of the U.S., southwestern parts of the U.S., copperheads and water moccasins, cottonmouths are some of the more common of the venomous snakes compared to like a timber rattlesnake or other rattlesnake species.
Okay, what is with the myth that antivenom is bad for the body? Does it have a toxic effect?
The reason why some may consider antivenom toxic is because antivenom is derived generally from horses or other livestock. It's a bit of a complicated process, but very simply, minute doses of venom are injected, and this is in a professional setting, into a horse or a sheep or a goat, for example, and over time the horse will develop antibodies in its system. Blood is collected from the horse, and the serum is separated and eventually made into antivenom. So the reason why sometimes people have a reaction to antivenom itself is because they are allergic to horses or to the sheep or whatever animal that the antivenom is being produced from. So there's always a chance of allergic reactions to that animal that was the surrogate or whatever producer of the antivenom.
Okay, well, that's extremely informative. Those are the snakes that I've gone through there. I can stop sharing the screen here. What got y'all into wildlife in general, and how did you get to start this channel?
So we've both been into wildlife since we were little kids, and Brave Wilderness officially launched publicly in 2014. That's when our YouTube channel kicked off. We're almost 9 years old now, and we just have a general infatuation for wanting to get outside to explore, and in doing so, capturing our encounters on camera and finding a way to make them very entertaining and putting it together as a narrative that helps people understand animals in their area, specifically ones that are potentially feared, misunderstood, or have myth and lore behind them that we try to dispel, and to really get people excited about why these things have an important role in our planet and how to protect them in the long run.
Yep.
And I really appreciate the commitment that y'all have put into this for educating people, keeping them safer, and respecting wildlife more in general. So that's been very nice of y'all to put together. It kicks the crap out of the Discovery Channel.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for watching our content, and this is actually very fun. I love snakes in particular. That's kind of, snakes got me into reptiles when I was younger. So I actually really enjoyed this little
Well, that's fantastic.
Guess the snake.
Guess the snake.
Guess
Yeah.
the snake. That was just great. Thanks for having us as a part of your publication, and yeah, happy to do it anytime. If you got more people sending in images of things, we'd be happy to hop on and help you guys identify them.
Well, thank y'all so much, and my kids Eleanor, Lyddon, and Everett will love to see this, so I'm glad we got it recorded. And if I can get the address for y'all's office from Suzanne, I'll be sure to send y'all copies of the magazine when it prints.
Okay,
excellent.
Sounds fantastic. And just let Suzanne know if there's any other photos or information you need about myself or Mario. We're happy to provide you guys anything we can to make the articles as great as it can be.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so very much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, is this going to my computer? Are you recording it on your side?
I'm recording on a screen share record just as a backup. So if y'all have the real one on Zoom, that would be even better.
Oh, yeah, I think it's probably going to ours because I think it started recording when we turned it on. So I'll have Suzanne, we'll get that sent over to you.
Perfect.
Somebody will pop my computer and do it for you.
Thank you, Coyote and Mario. I appreciate y'all so much.
No problem, Hayes. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.